Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'd take this opportunity whenever I actually have a cold, whenever I actually have a cold, to actually try reading in my, in my own opinion, hopefully a super sexy voice. But whether or not that's actually the case, I'll leave up to you guys. What I'm going to be doing this time around is now I'm going to be reading a couple of chapters from a book I'm currently reading, which is Anime from Akira to Howl's Moving Castle, which is written by Susan J. Napier. Just doing the needful and making sure that people know about the stream being up. In my description. Okay. Alright, so yes, I apologize, folks, but I thought I would take this opportunity for this, because this is actually a very good subject, and one that I think warrants a lot more investigation into. So, let's get on with, shall we? Anime and global cultural identity. Perhaps the final reason behind anime's hold on Japanese culture has to do with its participation in global culture. By the late 1990s, it was clear that anime both influenced and was influenced by a plethora of Western cultural products. As film scholar Susan Boynton writes of Japanese anime videos, it is impossible to ignore the constant cross-pollination and popular cultural borrowing that complicate and enrich anime texts. The creators, for the most part, are young Japanese artists in their 20s and 30s who have been exposed since birth to Western influences. Despite their Japanese overlay, many of these videos pay generous and excessively scrupulous homage to sources as diverse as American television cop shows of the 70s, European glam rock fashions of the 80s, and French New Wave cinema from the 60s. Boynton's statement concerning the constant cross-pollination occurring between anime and Western popular cultural text is an important one. For most Japanese consumers of anime, their culture is no longer purely a Japanese one, and indeed it probably hasn't been for over a century and a half. At least in terms of entertainment, these are as equally interested in and influenced by Western cultural references as they are by specifically Japanese ones. And yes, guys, you can leave comments in the actual chat if you want to. I don't know who would be listening to this, but apologies, 1 second. Apologies for that. Yes, it's always good having a cough button on your microphone. So, where was I? Ah, yes. This relies to a further point Boynton makes concerning the need to approach contemporary media cultures as zones and intersections, where elements of different cultures collide and mutate. Despite its indisputably Japanese origins, anime increasingly exists at a nexus point in global culture. This position allows it to inhabit an amorphous new media territory that crosses and even intermingles national boundaries. And this is clearly one of its attractions. Film scholar Mitsushiro Yoshimi I'm really bad at Japanese names. Film scholar Mitsuhiro Yoshimoto has commented that one of the highly contested issues among those who study the formation of global image cultural concerns, concerns of the connection between global circulation of images and regional boundaries. The relevant question is where the image is to be situated in this new global dynamic. Are globally circulated images simply subsumed under the bifurcating tendency of simultaneous globalization and against globalism and localism, or do they reinforce instead the identities of nation states as a counterforce against globalism and localism? The answer to this question in terms of anime is a complex but thought-provoking one. First, the appropriate answer to the question of whether anime is being subsumed into global culture seems to be not yet, even though anime's influence is increasing in American popular culture. For example, many anime fans have seen what they believe to be heavy borrowing in Disney's 1994 Lion King from the Tezuka Osamu classic Kimba the White Lion, or as my own personal look at it, outright stealing in some cases. Seriously, look up comparisons on YouTube or on the internet. You'll find that a lot of the shots are basically shot for shot. Anyway, we're back to the reading. More recently, John Lasseter, the director of the immensely popular Toy Story animated films, has acknowledged the influence and inspiration of the great anime director Miyazaki Hayao. As has already been discussed, part of anime's appeal is its differentness, and this seems likely to remain the case for a long time to come, given how Japanese society remains in certain aspects quite dissimilar from that of the West. Yeah, reading with a cold is not fun. The answer to the second part of Yoshimoto's question concerning whether globally circulated images actually reinforce national identity is an even more complex one. In some ways, the content of anime, its particular themes, issues, and icons, is inevitably culturally specific. For example, many comedies are set at school, since education is one of the major pivots around which Japanese society revolves. Many of these comedies are quite subversively inclined towards the educational system, although in a light-hearted way. As with any art form, anime does not simply reflect society. It problematizes aspects of the dominant social culture. Okay, now I really think the author is actually making up words. I've never heard of problematize as a proper word. Furthermore, many anime use Japanese historical settings as material for a variety of dramas, comedies, and even fantasies. But one of anime's most popular genres, science fiction, is the one that is far less likely to be culturally specific. Although many science fiction anime contain significant elements related to contemporary Japanese issues, they are usually played across stateless fantasyscapes of future cities or faraway galaxies. For example, the 1970 space battleship Yamato series simultaneously celebrated such Japanese cultural norms as the notion of collective sacrifice, at the same time as it emphasized more transnational values such as universal peace and love. Moreover, as every non-Japanese viewer soon notes, the characters in anime often do not look particularly Japanese. Instead, they participate in what might be called a non-culturally specific anime style. Oh, thank you very much. That's actually my own drawing. Where was I? Oh, yes. Rather than necessarily reinforcing Japanese cultural identity, it might at least be as appropriate to say that anime narratives, even when they include strong cultural narrative, specifically specific situations, problematize the nature of Japanese identity. In fact, a number of Japanese commentators have chosen to describe anime with the word Mukoku Keski, meaning stateless, or essentially without a national identity. Anime is indeed exotic to the West in that it is made in Japan, but the world of anime itself occupies its own space as not necessarily coincident with that of Japan. Unlike the inherently more representational space of conventional live-action film, which generally has to convey already existing objects with a pre-existing context, animated space has the potential to be context-free, drawn wholly out of the artist's or animator's mind. It is thus a particularly apt candidate for participation in a transnational, stateless culture. Apologies, folks, I just need to take a drink for one moment. And we're back. So, yes. In a revealing discussion between the critic Yuno Toshiya and the animators Oshiro Mamoru and Aito Kazunori, Muko Keski aspect of anime comes up frequently as an expression of what they perceive as Japan's very problematic cultural identity at the start of the 21st century. Yuno's position explains anime as a product of what he deems to be techno-orientalism, an othering of Japan by the West, and sees it only as a technological dystopia or occasionally as a utopian. Thus, anime may be seen as a dark mirror that reflects Japan to the West, and to some extent vice versa, in that anime also gives Japanese viewers a distinctive vision of non-Japanese worlds. The three commentators are fascinated both by the medium's appeal at home and by its increasing popularity abroad. Groping for an explanation of this popularity, they all seem to agree with a statement made by Oshii that anime is another world. This other world, according to Oshii, is created by animators who themselves are stateless. He supports this point by suggesting that animators do not possess a real Furusato, or hometown. The use of the emotionally and ideologically charged word Furusato, with its lyric evocation of a quintessentially Japanese ordinary village and landscape, stands in strong contrast to the neutral and abstract Muko Kuesku, suggesting how far anime diverges from traditional Japanese cultural products. You know what? I will leave it for there. Because my voice is actually killing me at the moment. So, thank you for listening.